The Ron DeSantis for President campaign has fired about a dozen different staffers. Now, as is always the case when campaigns do this, they say, no. It's not that we fired them because we're shrinking the campaign, because we're failing and we're not raising money and we have no path to the nomination, all of which are true, by the way. They love to say, we're reorganizing, we're redeploying resources, we're focusing in a different way. All right, well, needless to say, NBC News reports Ron DeSantis fires roughly a dozen staffers in a campaign shakeup. The Florida governor has struggled to break into Trump's lead. His campaign has been burning through money. A source familiar with the firings described those who were let go as mid-level staffers across several departments whose departures were related to cutting costs. The exits come after the departures of David Abrams and Tucker Obenshane, veterans of DeSantis' political orbit, first reported by Politico. Sources involved with the DeSantis campaign say there is an internal assessment among some that they hired too many staffers too early, despite having brought in $20 million in the first 6 weeks. They need to bring costs down. Some in DeSantis' political orbit lay the early blame at the feet of the campaign manager, Janera Peck, who led DeSantis' 2022 midterm reelection bid. A DeSantis donor said she should be the one who is in the hot seat at this point in time. A donor said DeSantis' stock isn't rising. 20% isn't what people signed up for. We then go to the next element of this, which is that it is not just a couple of donors, but it is a number of DeSantis' biggest donors who are now kind of saying, what is going on? DeSantis was at 30. He announced Trump got arrested and DeSantis went down in support from 30 to 20. That is a loss of a third of your support in the Republican primary. And we're donating the money to this guy. And indeed, we have another NBC News report. Confidential DeSantis campaign memo looks to reassure donors amid stumbles. In the strategy memo obtained by NBC News, DeSantis' campaign says it will stay focused on the early states and not yet make investments in Super Tuesday battlegrounds. Remember that for our new viewers and listeners who are not yet veterans of the way these primaries go, there's this thing called Super Tuesday. Super Tuesday is a Tuesday in March on which there are a whole bunch of primaries. Large numbers of delegates are available, but there's always this strategy question. Do I go for Super Tuesday so that I can get a bunch of delegates on that day? Or do I focus on the early states like Iowa and New Hampshire and I believe South Carolina, although now I don't remember if South Carolina is only early for Democrats. I know it's the first for Democrats this time around. In any case, at some point when campaigns start not doing well, they come out and they say, we're going to focus on the early states. So sure, we might be getting crushed in New Hampshire and Connecticut and Massachusetts and California, all the states that are part of Super Tuesday. I'm going by memory. I don't know if those are. We're not going to worry about that. We're just going to worry about how are we doing in the early states. And so, for example, DeSantis can say, hey, we're in second place in New Hampshire, and we potentially could be poised to tie Trump or something along those lines. I don't know. It's usually a sign that things aren't going particularly well. And indeed, things aren't going particularly well for Ron DeSantis. So we'll continue to follow those numbers. We need to teach kids to think critically and independently, and we aren't doing a good enough job of it. I have a book right here that teaches kids critical thinking. I wrote this book, and it's available on Amazon at davidpakman.com/book. This is told through the story of a kid detective. The idea is critical thinking, thinking independently, is like solving a mystery. Getting clues, evaluating them, thinking through scenarios. The right knows that when kids think critically, they don't end up being Republicans when they're adults. And that's why they hate teaching kids critical thinking. This book alone won't solve the problem, but it will get kids interested. Get a copy, Kindle, paperback at davidpakman.com/book.